Do you believe in the paranormal? There have been many mysterious phenomena reported worldwide. Eyewitness accounts to the unknown and often debated. Well-known documented events and studies, and we want to know, is there something beyond this existence?
Can you say thank you?
Can you say thank you with one color?
Oh,
yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Join us on our quest as we try to unravel the mystery of life after death.
So I'm joined here in the studio by the East Coast Spirit Chasers. Let me see if everyone's here. We'll take roll call and check and see. Let's try and put faces together. Terry. You're Terry. You're
I'm
Terry.
Terry.
Okay. Melissa. Either you're Melissa. You're Melissa?
I am.
Oh, you look different in that picture. And then, so that's Melissa Lagara. We have Terry Gilbert. This is going to be fun. Nick Vashkiev.
That's me right here.
That's Nick Vashkiev is over here. He's on the other side of the monitor. Great to see you, the lead investigator.
Great to be here.
Yeah, and making way down from New Jersey. And with a name like this, how could you just not be legendary? Is David here with us?
David is actually, he couldn't make the trip.
He couldn't make it.
But we want to give him a special shout out to David Wigender. He's our historian.
Yeah.
He does a lot of the research for us. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it.
That's the amazing fun part.
Yeah.
Definitely that back-end research experience has been quite a phenomenon, and of course is really what led to this Savannah History radio show as well. And you know, with of course this spirit hunting and the spirits and spirit interactions being a part of the history of Savannah, we also bring you Travis Gilbert as well here joining us, and then there are others in actuality. So there are you four. There's the where's the young fellow? Oh, you're hiding over there behind that monitor. I can see you. He's got the Facebook Live going on for them. Is that on East Coast? Where would they find that on Facebook?
East Coast Spirit Chasers.
East Coast Spirit Chasers on Facebook. If you want to see everyone sitting live in the studio, that's where you're going to see everybody's beautiful faces. And I love that they all have the Spirit Chaser shirts on. That's
Right, and we actually have a new member,
You do?
Aaron.
I was about to inquire because I didn't have a name to put with that.
Well,
With these
thank
two
you.
faces over
Yes,
here.
this is Malia Gonzalez, and
Malia
this is my
Gonzalez.
son Anthony. And
Anthony.
Yes,
Anthony,
and
that's
they
my father
love
Anthony
it.
as well. He's on the other end of the transmission here doing some listening. Anthony, say hello to Anthony. All right, enough about that now. Hey, how are you all?
Good.
Great to see you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, you're trudged out. Are you staying close by? It was an easy walk for you?
Well, originally we were supposed to be going to New Orleans,
Ooh.
and then the hurricane hit, and we just did a last-minute trip to change everything up, and we're like, well, Savannah is super haunted.
Yeah.
That's been on our bucket list to come down here.
Nice.
And we've basically been staying at a new haunted location or a hotel
Ooh.
every single night. So we started with the East Bay Inn,
Uh-huh.
and then we did the Eliza Thompson.
Oh, yeah.
Yesterday was the Planters.
Mhm.
Tonight is Marshall House, and then tomorrow is 1790.
Oh, super.
And we're those crazy people that go and say, okay, we heard about this legend in this room, we want that room.
And you know, I really appreciate that, and I would imagine that there are some people that would say, these folks is crazy, what do they want to do, stay in these places? But I love the fact how it's, you know, you talk about how there's a great curiosity to these phenomenons, and it's something that you're all incredibly interested in getting a better understanding of. And you know, I definitely a lot of kudos to you. That's you know, this is really the biggest philosophical question that humans ask themselves during our human physical existence, and here you are looking to follow up on the many stories that have been shared, and not just here in Savannah. You know, it's a global epidemic. If you think about it, you're like, oh my gosh, this is a global epidemic, people.
People have been talking about this for years in
Yeah.
all different parts of the country.
Yeah.
So I mean, it dates back a long time ago.
Yeah, I'd say many. I think at this point we could go back and do ethnographies on a lot of the Siberian nations, and Siberia really keeping people out of the modern loop, and you could get a really deep attachment to, you know, what they call New Age nowadays, but I always say it's old age. These are old components of our human history that the 20th century wiped away. So you stayed at the East Bay Inn?
Yeah, and we've had activity at every place that we've stayed, but nothing like it was yesterday at the Planters Inn.
Oh, at the Planters.
Yeah, and we basically, the information that we found, because there's not much online, we went through TripAdvisor, and they of course have people, you know, that talk about their hauntings, and we did a search for haunted under everybody's reviews, and we kept getting the name, you know, the room numbers 606 and 609, and we're like, well, we want those 2 rooms. So, but we heard the whole 6th floor is haunted.
Okay, please continue.
So basically, you really couldn't go wrong with any one of the rooms. We ended up getting 1 out of the 2 rooms that we wanted, but interestingly enough, the haunted room that we heard about was the least active of the 3 rooms that we've had. So it's just something about that 6th floor. We ended up getting an EVP, and for the people listening, if they don't know what that is, that's an electronic voice phenomenon, and you can use a digital recorder, and it just records in a lower frequency that the human ears can't hear, and that's how you get spiritual voices. And we actually caught a little girl giggling on a recording. That was one of the things that we got. I don't know if we can maybe. We have the audio.
If you have some audio, yeah, we'd love to. Yeah,
put
if
it up here.
there's some audio.
This is very clear. It's unmistakable.
I'd love to try and hear it. Just put it up, put it on speakerphone, and hold it up to the mic. I'll make sure that we blast the mic level here.
And on our Facebook page, we usually go live on most of the investigations on certain
So you
parts.
can follow up on East Coast Spirit Chasers as well, if that's something.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to find out some more information, that's
So this is
where you can find it.
basically just the audio of the one clip here. Let me see if I can.
I wanted to show this little quick
This is
video
just-
real quick. This is in mine and Melissa's room. Check this out. We caught a little girl laughing. Here we go. Is there anything that you want to tell us? You're that giggle?
Yeah. It was
You can hear that in the woods.
yeah, and interestingly enough, at that same moment, we ended up getting the name Rebecca that came up on another one of our devices that we use.
I haven't heard any stories about young girls in that particular location. How young do you think?
It sounds like maybe a girl that's 10 years old.
10 years old, way young. I wonder if perhaps one of the children of one of the workers there, that was that building housed one of the last city brothels
I know.
in town. So of course there has been over the years lots of talk of experiences with the smell of perfumes, or people being joined in the shower, or being joined in the bed, and I've had folks tell me of those encounters over time, and so, and I know the workers tell you about the furniture moving around on the upper patio level there.
Yeah, and the pictures, some of them change on the different levels, they'll move. When we came in, we spoke to Gina, who's behind the desk over there. We told her we'd give her a shout out. She mentioned that there's a photo right behind when you check in, and it's just constantly being moved on them. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, and again, these they're just the things that make you wonder and question. You know, of course, you're like, is there a great prankster amongst us that's really rigging some stuff, or, you know? But then you think about the consistencies, and you know, it's that sense. Yeah, all right. Yeah, there's something going on here.
Yeah.
You know, there are times where it seems that there are no explanations whatsoever. So last night was a good night then at that location.
Now Terry had an experience there that was pretty crazy. If you want to tell everybody about
the
that.
Planters.
Yeah.
At Planters, well, it started off, we started getting knocks from our bathroom.
Uh-huh.
And we all heard it, but then it would go away, we'd ask it to come back, and they'd do it again. And then at the very time we heard the knock and Nick went to check, it felt as if something came through the wall and stood right beside me. The cold air, like I felt the cold air almost come through me and stand right beside me. And then a few seconds later, something rubbed my calf.
Now we always try and explain things.
Sure.
With the
and
knocking.
that makes a lot of sense. Pull that around again too, towards you.
So we couldn't figure out what it was, but we were able to mimic what that knock was, and it sounded like somebody was tapping on the bathroom wall. Like it was like 5 taps in a row.
Was there a room on the other side of the wall? Was
Not
there anything
over there.
that you?
No.
No.
There was
on that
nobody in there.
side.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those corner spots.
Yep.
Nobody in an adjoining room or anything.
Right.
Yeah, those. Do any of you have? I'm going to quote an 8-year-old girl that was out on a tour with me one evening. I'll try and do the eyes like her too. Do any of you have vision?
Well, I don't think any of us have the vision, though we've all seen things.
Okay.
We don't have the actual vision, but a lot of us can feel things.
Yeah,
Travis,
of course, numerous senses, definitely.
Right. As we go into places, Travis can feel things and sense things, and he sometimes sees things. And I can usually feel, when we go into a location, feel if something's there or not.
Do you find that when you're all together, that it seems that all of that is heightened even more than, say, when you're by yourself, or if there are just 1 or 2 of you? And I'm sure, you know, you may have had encounters in that position, but I have a friend in particular, when I'm with her, I hear things which I normally do not hear, and I have seen things as well on 3 occasions, actually a total of about 5 throughout my time here in Savannah. But with her in particular, it seems to be very, very stimulated, and she says, oh my gosh, when you're around, so much more comes to me. I don't know what it is. And I really don't have that steady vision, but someone like her, who modern day shamaness in a respect is, you know, has this, the brain is wired to be able to interact, and you know, that's pretty darn amazing.
Yeah. Well, I think the chemistry of the group is just so good that we just work so well together. We've never had problems getting evidence. It's just something that's almost come easy to us. That's why when we watch some of these paranormal shows, they'll stay at a location for hours and hours, but you'll maybe get 2 or 3 pieces of evidence.
Sure.
There's been locations that
the anticipation of
Yeah.
keeping you tuned in.
it's like 95% filler, and then you get 5% evidence. But there's been locations that we go into, and we also do client cases, where we'll get a couple EVPs within the first 5 minutes because the spirits are there, they're ready to talk.
Yeah.
A lot of these client locations, these are spirits that are reaching out for the first time, and they're pretty excited about it, so they're ready to go.
Yeah, and if you're curious out there, and of course I'm going to ask as well, but you can go to eastcoastspiritchasers.com, and an abundance of information. They're a great portfolio. I really love the portfolio of all of the houses and the buildings that you've been through, you know, in as far as South Dakota. I noticed, and a lot in New Jersey, of course, lots of myth and legend and folklore and claim of experience in New Jersey as well, and upstate New York, and I saw Pennsylvania, and You want to share any of those experiences before I start questioning you again about some of those Savannah encounters, or you have a guideline there you want to follow?
Just some notes.
You have some notes?
Well, I would say Virgin House.
Yeah,
Was it in
the
May?
Virgin House. It's upstate New York, in Virgin, New York,
Okay.
and it's this old, dilapidated farmhouse, and the middle of nowhere. And you're going down the driveway. They have these crater-sized potholes everywhere, so you got to go 5 miles out. So if you're super scared, there's no way you're gonna put the foot to the gas and floor out of there. There's no way that's gonna happen.
It's that movie scene where you're gonna get caught and that's it, it's inevitable.
Yeah,
You
this
just
is.
feel that anticipation the whole time, huh?
It looked like a classic horror movie set.
Uh-huh.
You know, got strange things going on. When we first got there, the lady that owns it, Kathy, she was telling us all sorts of stuff. From witches being on the property and dead people, the bones being found in the backyard. And it was just like almost normal to them to talk about it. It's like, oh yeah, over here in the backyard, there was bones dug up.
And that
like,
is
over
kind
here
of
is
normal
this.
if you think about it. That's where you buried your family members once upon a time. That kind of was the norm of things. Your property had your own little burial plots. So I could see how, and especially if it's older generation, they still seem to be really in touch with that. The folks that are kind of becoming the oldest of generations now. And I always hope that those sort of sentiments remain. And so please tell me more.
So if you get into the house, the floorboards are even crooked. So like you're walking like a fun house. You get that type of effect. But this is one of those places that not many people know about. So if you're a paranormal investigator and you're out there, I would highly suggest Googling the haunted Bergen House if you want to really get your ghost on. Sorry, you want to tell them some of the experiences we
tell
had?
us, and definitely if you could describe some of the things that you may have seen over time. This is definitely a big part of the curiosity for folks.
Right. Well, definitely at the Virgin House, it was creepy as soon as you got in the building. And we learned that there was Native American grounds there before they built the house, so that contributes to a lot of the activity. But Malia and I saw a shadow figure there outside the house, and then there's also a portal in the upstairs bedroom
A portal.
at that house. So we had the music box aimed at the portal.
It's a paranormal music box, and it's basically a sensor built into a music box. And if something moves in front of the sensor, it starts playing this creepy song. So we had it pointed at the closet, and all of a sudden this thing started going off, so we all ran in.
Of course.
We also got some
As
very
most people would be running out. Here you all come running in. I love that. I love that image.
We run to the scare.
we also got some very interesting pictures of that same time period where the music box was going off. And then while the guys were in figuring out what was going on in that room, Travis got touched on the shoulder when him and Malia were a little bit frightened and stayed in the other room. Travis got touched on the shoulder and they come running into us as well. So there was lots of stuff happening.
Yeah, David, who couldn't be with us today, he caught a black mass right in front of the closet, which is the supposed portal. So I mean, this music box going on, we get this black mass, you get in touch there. We also got a really creepy EVP. It was a voice that said, "My name is Hell."
Oof. Okay, yeah, that's something like Eddie Murphy would be like, all right, time to leave. That's
Yeah.
right.
But we did, being a paranormal investigator, a lot of the spirits, they just try to scare you to get you out of the house. So get out, leave, those are all common things. We've heard Satan, devil, just to scare you. So when we hear "My name is Hell," that's just in that same group.
An adaptation to the modern day human psyche and things that we would find horrific or fearful.
Yeah.
That's intriguing.
I mean, if you think about it, they passed, and for whatever reason, they never crossed over, so they need a place to stay. So for whatever reason, they chose that location. So you have all these strangers coming into the house, and they're like, get out of here. This is my space. And it's just like you and I, if we had a stranger in the house, what would we tell them? To get out.
I wonder if the portal makes a hole in dimensions. And in that point, you're in that singular location that is experiencing multi-dimensions. And of course, there are those little spots where they all cross and touch and brush upon one another. And then all of a sudden, yes, if you're encountering a stranger in your dimension, you're like, oh my gosh, yes, leave, please. You know, in that sort of capacity, you know, that's definitely enough to startle anyone. And yeah, that's another thing I've always thought about it. And portals, like, could you actually see them? Could you actually see, or if you looked at, say, something with infrared, are you able to see a variance in the color or in the frequency or the amount of heat or non-heat that's given off in those locations? Do you have any devices like that?
Well, we do use infrared for everything night vision, and it basically just catch things that the human eye sometimes can't.
Sure.
But as far as portals, it doesn't really show anything. I mean, you can walk into like that closet and you'll just feel that difference in the energy that's in there. It's so much heavier than another part of the room.
And you'll end up with the lion and the witch.
Exactly.
That's how those little stories originated along the way.
Yeah, in that same room though, at the same time, as soon as you got up to that upper level, you felt this very heavy feeling, and to the point where I know myself and one of the other people that are with us actually began to cry. I'm not sure why. It was just this feeling of grief and sadness, and I literally had to walk out of there just to get out of there because it was overwhelming.
Yeah, I truly think that those physical reactions that we experience, you know, or when you get the sense I was fine before this moment, and I could totally relate to that. I think I was looking into one of the places you had explored, and that everyone started feeling lightheaded and somewhat dizzy, and it turned out that it was a surgical room once upon a time, and you all got that sense of, oh my gosh, I'm so uneasy in here, and I can really relate to that. I think more people I know have encountered it more frequently, but most prominent for me was when I was in St. Petersburg, Russia, and I was in a historic building where they had held political prisoners, and I was in the room where Lenin's brother had been captured and held by the White Army, and those were the ones that supported the Tsar and wanted to keep the Tsarist regime. So they held him prisoner and apparently tortured him and ended up breaking his legs and left him there in, writhing in pain. And I remember walking into the room, and at first I got this really sense of cold, like when the body goes into shock, and it was that, oh my gosh, that whole physical adjustment, and then I started limping through the room and had this feeling like, oh my gosh, I need to sit down and I need to get out of here. So I actually walked out of that room and slightly down the hallway and sat down on the floor. And someone that I was with then went and read the historic sign that was there and said, it's interesting that your legs were bothering you, because it was explicitly noted that they broke his legs during the torture process and left him to drag himself around the room afterwards. And yeah, to have those sort of encounters, it's incredibly moving, and definitely we feel like gets us a little closer to the phenomena, or I don't know if we could say truly explains everything, but I have to admit that to me it brings on a great sense of comfort. It's a great sense of comfort. Okay, so the three of you were kind of talking, you were huddling up over there about something that was happening. So would you want to add? Would you want to share too?
Well, at the Virgin House, there's a history in the upstairs level where we had all this activity. You actually had to ask the spirits permission to go up the steps before you went in.
Or it was said that he would push you down the stairs.
Or throw something at you.
Yes.
Oh, that would be no fun.
Right.
And I guess there have been reports of people experiencing that sort. Now, what if is the house inhabited? Do people live there presently?
Yeah, the owner actually moved away for a while, and they just left the house because she had a lot of childhood stuff going on over there. But it turned out that people were coming in, breaking into the house and looting it.
Oh.
So she ended up moving back, and now she's basically just dealing with everything that's going on in the house.
Yeah, we had a house here in town too that no one was living in, and people started trying to get into it and stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that can be problematic, and one of those things where you're like, get out, get out of my place. Yeah, I'm wondering, like, if you reside there, if every night when you want to go upstairs, are you having to ask permission
Well,
to go up?
she no longer sleeps upstairs in that bedroom.
Oh, so she'll stay on the lower level.
Correct. Yep.
Okay, and I could see that being. I know there was a place here on Oglethorpe Avenue, close near the fire station, and apparently had been utilized as an orphanage once upon a time. And the family that resided there eventually had the last child go away to college, and there were no more kids in the house. And two parents started hearing what sounded like people jumping on the bed. Closet doors in the children's, in their kids' bedrooms that were opening and closing, slamming. Cabinet doors opening and closing, footsteps, laughter, different elements of mischief, and they started reflecting, okay, what's different that may have caused this? And in the end, upon learning the orphanage, they kind of started thinking, oh my gosh, when our children were here, every night we would go in and say goodnight and kind of put them to bed. And I'm wondering, we're not doing that anymore. So she started experimenting and going into the rooms and saying, all right, it's time for bed. Thank you. Great to see all of you. Everybody did a great job today, and whatever she needed to, and were putting the spirits to sleep in a sense. And afterwards, she said things really started to pacify themselves, that there was a lot more peace and not many interactions after that. And of course, I always look, okay, right, that's somebody living in the place. Tell me more, show me more. It's not like I need to see more, but I just love reaffirmations are really great. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, I had a group on a tour one night, and they were staying in that house, which was now being utilized as a vacation rental. And I picked them up, and of course, the first thing they asked, what do you know about this place? What's the story? Here's what happened last night. Doorknobs disconnecting themselves and dropping off onto the floor. Then the screws, when you try to put it back on, and they're eventually able to get the door open, the screw is too tight that it can't get back on, so there's no way that it ought to have come off. Again, the sound of jumping on the bed, cabinets, and so I explained some background. And I suggested, hey, when you go in tonight, make some offerings and put the children to sleep, see what happens. And sure enough, they contacted me the next day and said, wow, we had a peaceful night. Nothing was going on. And, and then to me, you're like, all right, what are the odds that this is going to happen, two complete different strangers, years apart, and then it's somewhat working in a sense also. This is when you really have to have that sentiment that we could do this. We interact with all of this. Be mindful, be aware, and it just might talk to you. It just might talk to you.
Just wait.
It's all about establishing boundaries. Sometimes with the spirits, most of the clients that we get, they just want confirmation that they're not crazy. They usually don't have anything negative in the house. It's sometimes mischievous, but it's nothing that they can't deal with on a regular basis.
Sure. And that's a blessing, I guess, in respect, because to have something incredibly disruptive and to really alter your entire perspective of reality and sanity, like something like that movie Poltergeist, in a location like that, and moving in and feeling like you're going to have a nervous breakdown or something. And there have been a couple of people here in the city who told me the things that I experienced for the 5 months living in this location are things people ought to have experienced in a lifetime, and like complete and utter madness with no sorts of explanations, and then moving, and all of a sudden this whole different life experience that's filled with so much more joy and light. So What do you think? Do you think it's really a matter of what went on in the past in these places? Huh? It's where the history or the energy clings to it all.
Absolutely, yeah.
So tell me about some more of the places here in Savannah where you stayed, even if they were mild things, and even if you just want to go on and go through your notes and stuff. I'll make like I'm asking questions, or I'll ask question. We'll do it backwards. You'll like give the statement, and then I'll see if I can think of a question to ask that fits the explanation.
So at the East Bay Inn, we actually had a man who was at the East Bay Inn who seemed to have perished in that plane crash that was in the vicinity of Savannah last year.
Really?
Yes, and we asked him why he was there, and he told us because it was safe.
Huh.
So there was a plane crash last year. We did quick history while we were in there because we got plane accident, and 9 people perished in that plane crash.
Really? I'm trying to think if I recall that. Could somebody, let's see here. So pull that up. See if you can find it on here. Here.
I believe it was May of last year.
May of 2018.
May 2018. Wow, so a plane crash, 9 people, and a man at the East Bay Inn who was somewhat leaning towards and asserting something about a plane crash and saying it's a safe place. That's intrigued because
I think we need a mouse.
Yeah.
too.
oh yeah, hold on, I forgot. That's all right. That comes along with it. We got Tom. Here's Jerry. Here's Jerry. Here to help you out. That's for sure. Hey, you're listening to some of that old Savannah magic, and another Wednesday afternoon. I'm here with the East Coast Spirit Chasers, and they have spent a few days here in Savannah doing paranormal investigations, and so we're having some of those discussions, and of course that's bringing up talk of other phenomenon, and of course leaning to other places as well. And how does it fit into the history? This is definitely a huge part of the city's folklore, of the city's myths and legends, ghost stories, going all the way back to Oglethorpe's arrival, and the theme and the consistency, how people seem to have these encounters. Now, Savannah itself is said to sit on an energy vortex as well, and I always looked at that as one of the foundations of what could be responsible for stirring the paranormal activity.
And we've got the story up here.
Oh, super! Let's take a look at that. No, so here's a good question posed by one of our listeners. Do you? I think we've somewhat come to that conclusion that not all ghosts or spirits are scary or evil.
Mm-hmm.
Most are not.
Most are not. Yes.
Well, I
they
think
probably confuse themselves, I would imagine.
Well, I think it's just like they were on Earth. There's good and bad people. There's good and bad spirits.
Yeah, definitely. That seems to be a definite for sure. Have you? Okay, so here we are. All 9 people aboard an aging cargo plane making its final military flight Wednesday were killed when the aircraft nosedived onto a Georgia highway. The Puerto Rico Air National Guard WC-130 was carrying 9 crew members when it crashed. And in a statement it was made, it was flying from the coastal city of Savannah to Tucson, Arizona, where it was to be decommissioned. And the plane ended up going down. It was at least 50 years old, according to a report, and of course some of the military documents. And according to those that were familiar, and it's unfortunate to have lost all of them. Of course, shaking up families and relatives, and no names were given out on that. And of course, people thinking. So one witness said that the plane made a loud, strange noise, and then all of a sudden the ground shook as if a bomb went off when it hit. And of course, horrifying final moments. And it left from Savannah in particular. And so yeah, with that, I could see perhaps coming on back and wanting to find something of a safe place.
So he felt safe at the East Bay Inn.
At the East Bay Inn. And, wow, that's, I wonder why. I wonder if, you know, history is staying there, good family memories or good memories, and I wonder if that's somewhere that you resort back to if you experience a death that devastating. You know, you immediately looking to find a blissful place, and almost having your, hoping to have your spirit memory erased somehow or another. All right, Travis, you've been rather stoic this whole entire time. Yeah, and that. How you doing?
Good.
Yeah. Tell me about what you experienced, because you seem to have been touched on more than one occasion during these investigations. Do you think there's something in particular that is drawing these spirits to you, that is hoping to have this physical interaction or to get your attention in particular?
Some people actually say I'm good with animals in cage.
Okay, so I could totally see that.
Yeah.
And with that, do you happen to see things moving around us? Or when you're in these places, are you seeing these entities?
Yes.
So you see them as
Yes.
well. Again, another matter of the brain being wired in so many different ways, and you know, an electromagnetic transmitter and what we can pick up along the way.
Now Travis is just developing his skills.
Okay. To yourself.
Yes.
Okay, I got you on that. And so now, were you concerned about telling other? Along the way, that's a really great thing. And so, do you feel like you're being really helpful to, or with the messages that you're able to share? Or
Yeah.
do people look scared when you see them, or do they look at peace, or do they look confused?
It's like they live in. There's many different feelings.
Okay, that's understood. And again, I wonder if that goes back to how they may have departed the physical carriage, or if they, you know, and oftentimes you hear unfinished, unresolved things, and I can imagine that would stir an amazing difference in emotions along the way as well. Hold on. So here's Albert. Albert's calling in for a moment, and Albert's visiting from Tampa, and we're maybe going to meet up later. Albert, can you hear me? All right, cool. I'm on my radio show right now. I finish at about 6 p.m., so I'll get in touch with you. I wanted to let you know now, but I'll be in touch with you after 6 p.m., okay? Fantastic. All right, yeah, so that kept ringing. I wanted to let her know. I figured it was going to keep calling back to do so. So have you seen things? Did you see the man from the plane? Did you see him?
Not really.
No. Did you see anybody else in the East Bay Inn?
The first night, I kind of did. I wasn't going to say anything until this guy pointed out.
And you caught a glimpse of it as well?
Yes, what happened was I noticed he was staring out the window, and Travis is actually normally very quiet, but you can tell when he spots something. So I go over and I look out, and I literally see a shadow figure. And I'm just like, so I look at him, I said, do you see that? And he's just like, yes. I'm like, okay. So there was our like two-step verification.
And again, yeah, affirmation and
Absolutely.
verification, that's huge.
So that is what he's referring to.
Was it in the space? Was it in where you were?
It was actually outside
of
the building. Yes.
On
Absolutely.
the ground? Was it in the air?
It was actually it was on a rooftop, but below us, below some windows,
Okay.
going from right to left. So yes.
Ah. Yeah, and that was to go back to the 8-year-old girl that I asked about having the vision. I asked her on that journey, are you nervous that we're going to go and explore for ghosts? And she said, oh, no, not at all. I brought my own with me. And I said, really? She said, yeah, 2 of them. I was like, well, where are they? She's there across the street on top of that building watching us. They're waiting until we leave, and then they're going to go see some friends that they know here.
Well, they say that everybody's born with the ability. That's why you always hear about, little children, babies looking up into, different areas, like there's something there. And the older that we get, the more stresses in our life that sort of dulls it down, and we end up just losing that ability. But there's that small percent that these people still carry that over.
Are able to. I think that's those that their brains are just wired that it's inevitable. And then you wonder how many people keep it to themselves, that sense of, I don't know what I could tell people or if they would understand, while, again, you go back to old cultures and these shamanic cultures, and these were the leaders of the tribes, of the bands, of the villages. These became the advisors and the incredibly significant people with amazing answers. And somehow or another, we don't, it isn't recognized anymore when someone has that ability at a young age, and then they are not then cultivated to be able to cultivate this ability, and again becomes suppressed and quelled. I was curious about the East Bay Inn for sure. I had a friend tell me upon her staying there that one of the fireplaces ignited itself while she was in bed reading.
Wow.
And that the fireplace ignited itself. And I always wondered about that. So, and so you stayed at the East Bay, and then there was the Planters Inn, and
Eliza Thompson.
let's talk about the Eliza Thompson house. I love Eliza Thompson. I'm a big Eliza Thompson fan. She's a good lady that way. She's left quite a legacy, to say the least. But so you anybody want to talk about their feelings or sentiments or the encounter at the Eliza Thompson house? Not all at once.
Melissa.
Hi, Melissa.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm well.
Good.
So Nick and I, we actually.
Jenny.
Oh, yeah, could you? Thank you. You're gonna knock at the window, everybody jumps.
Well,
I think it's the spirit of the station.
something's in here.
There is.
Just to let you know, something's in here.
Okay.
I got the feeling, and that's what Melissa and
That's
I were
what you're
just
writing
taking
about.
notes about. Melissa thought she heard a whisper a little bit ago, and I feel something's here. And just after we were talking about it, Jenny knocked on the window.
Well, I guess somebody was here after.
Jenny, you brought it right in perfect time. Couldn't have asked for any better. You startled everybody.